All right, so now let's go ahead and begin our demo on how to draw your hand from life. Drawing hands from life are really challenging. I'm going to use my hand, and I apologize, I meant to paint my fingernails and it just didn't happen, but deal with it. We've already drawn our value scale. Now it's time to draw our hand and actually practice a still life study. So what I want you to do is get your hand in a really unique position and one that's not going to hurt to hold for a while. The most important thing when you're drawing is close one eye when you're looking at your hand. So the camera automatically does that for me, so I don't really have to close my eye. But the catch is you compare edges. So when you start drawing, I look for where the edge of this fingertip is in relation to this finger, and I see that it ends right here at this shadow, like right here. And then when I need to know where to draw the edge of this fingertip, I'll compare it to this line on my hand right here. Where I draw the edge of this finger in relation to my thumb, it lines up right here. So it's lots of lines in order to figure out this is where it ends in order to make it look proportional. That's going to be the hardest thing. So I want you to do that in pencil so that if you make any mistakes, you can cover them up or redraw them if you need to. And take your time. Don't take a picture of your hand. The whole point is to draw from life. So this is the position I'm going to draw my hand in, and so you can just kind of watch. Unfortunately, I can't keep my hand right here, but I have it off to the side. So I always start with my thumb. I'm going to change the focus of the camera a little bit. Okay, better. I'm just going to take in the angle as best I can. I notice that my thumb is kind of curled right here. And it's a straight line. If you start with one fingertip, you can kind of base the rest of your drawing off of that one finger. So don't be eager to get everything on there, but just get that one finger totally proportionate and you'll be golden. And it's hitting my other finger, so it's kind of flat. You can see right here, it's very flat. And then I have another finger here, so I'm going to kind of just pretend like I can see the edge of my thumb. So this finger is kind of covering that finger, so I'm just going to try to pretend to draw that edge right there. I'm going to ignore my ring just because I don't have the time to draw it really. The hardest part is getting the angle correct on your fingertips. That takes time. I never really get it right the first time either. I usually have to do several eraser marks to get it correct. Notice how it's very flat, it's curved here. You want to think about your fingernail wrapping around the contour of the top of the finger and how that's working. And really take in the shape of your nail. Mine's almost like a weird kind of trapezoid shape in a way that's like a little bit bigger over here. It's not perfectly round. Notice I'm also drawing really lightly. Now I'm going to start with this finger. So I'm going to see where it is in relation to the edge. So I notice that the tip of my finger goes just a little bit past this line. And fingers, notice they're going to be smaller here on the fingertip, and then they kind of go out to get those shapes of bent fingers. I'm looking at where it is in relation, like kind of how far up I need to go from here. That looks about right, but I could be wrong. I might need to erase that. But it's nice and small here, and then it kind of gets just a little bit bigger. My fingernail, I'm looking at the distance right here between the edge of my fingertip and my nail right here. And then it kind of recedes. You want to think about that whole 1-point perspective. Things are going to recede as they go off in the distance, even if it's up close. And then I've got a nice shadow here. Now I'm going to go ahead and start focusing on this shape right here. He kind of overlaps a little bit, and it looks almost like a jelly bean. I'm just looking at the shapes. That's the easiest way to try not to think about it as a finger. So look at that shape. It's like a weird oniony kind of look, or garlic clove maybe, but that's what it's looking like to me from my angle. Keep in mind my angle is not entirely the same as the video here, but you kind of take in that garlicky clovey shape. You can see that right there. In fact, it's a little more rectangular up at the top. And then I have a line that kind of goes, I'm comparing the distance right here to make sure I'm staying on track. It ends right in the middle of my fingertip. This is one of my little joints. And then it starts to go down. And I'm noticing that it tapers right here, about right here on my thumb. So I need to draw that line that I'm about to go down, like so. So it goes out a little bit where my knuckle is. And it ends about here. There's a big wrinkle. I'm noticing I need to go like so. That's a weird looking finger, but when I shade it in, it'll look like a finger. There's just the slightest indication of a fingernail up at the top. Barely anything. Okay, so now on to the next finger. I'm going to see where it is in relation to here. It ends about here, so right below where I ended the outside of my index finger is about where my ring finger is going to come into play. There's a little bit of space here. In fact, I can see part of my finger right here. Oh, you guys can't see it, but there's just like the slightest indication of a fingertip right there. Or finger there. Okay. I would say it starts about there. It goes under, or it appears to go under. Gets a little thicker right after the knuckle, so the knuckle is a little bit smaller, and then it kind of bulges just a little bit. It just depends on your fingers. I have pretty big fingers. I'm noticing that guy kind of curls up a little bit more. Oh, it looks about right. I have a little bit of discoloration here from my wrinkles. I'm noticing my finger casts just a little bit of a shadow here. I can draw that on right now. In fact, I can do that in a lot of those places. That'll make for an easier scribble art too if you want to draw to yourself some of these shadows. It'll also help you see that you're doing your proportions properly. It's hard in the classroom because there's not really like one light source. The lights are above us. If you look above us, they're everywhere. So it's really difficult to get shadows. But if you search, there should be one area that's a little bit darker in your hand that you can use as like a general source of light. So right here there's a cast shadow. I'm drawing that guy in there. And he kind of just fades off into nothing in there. Another wrinkle. Okay, now moving on. I have my pinky that's kind of tucked in there a little bit. It kind of looks like this from my perspective. So I'm noticing my knuckle bends right here. There's no right place to start every finger. You kind of just look for what makes sense to you, like a line or an edge, and that's what you start drawing. So for me, it was where that knuckle bent. I have a little bit of skin there. I can't see the bottom of my fingernail. It goes right into my skin. So I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm drawing. Sometimes it's easy, your brain tells you what you think the finger's doing, and that's really not what's going on. So you might be tempted to draw like that, but that's not what I'm seeing. So be mindful of that. If things aren't looking right, you're probably looking at the finger the wrong way. It's also foreshortened, so again, here my brain is telling me it's a nice long fingernail. It's actually a little bit shorter. And when I add shadows to this whole area down here, that's going to make more sense, that shortened pinky nail. I see a little indication. And then my pinky ends about here-ish. It's kind of like when we do grid drawings. You kind of make tick marks to yourself. And then it goes down like so. If it helps, you can kind of get your hand into a fist-like shape like mine here and try to draw it just like I have it, and then you can use the video to draw in the same way I am. Chances are our fingers aren't too different. They're going to be a little different, so that'll help you kind of understand what you're drawing a little bit more. But if you're struggling or you're kind of nervous about doing this, go ahead and set your hand up just like I have mine, and then you can kind of follow step by step with the video. And that might make it a little easier on you if you find that it's more challenging to do this than you thought it would be. And then my hand kind of goes down. I'm going to come back. I notice this line is way too aggressive, so I'm going to pull it out like so. Once you get all the fingernails on, or fingers on, you'll see areas that kind of don't make a whole lot of sense. This finger's not looking so great to me, but I can't really tell what needs to change. A lot of that'll make sense when I start scribbling. You'll start noticing shadows and everything will start to make sense. The key is everything has to be perfectly drawn before you start. Otherwise,